Dear friends, I am Father Mandra and I warmly welcome you to Bodhini, the Neural Chapel, also known as BNC, a sacred space where the eternal teachings of Jesus meet the brilliant insights of neuroscience. To enter in today's theme, let me begin with a question. Do you know the most common unresolved difficulty we often share in prayer? It is this. Whenever we try to pray or meditate, distractions immediately arise. Thoughts rush in, restlessness grows, and sometimes we even lose interest. On the one hand, we long for prayer, hoping for peace, clarity, and connection with God. Yet, on the other hand, when we actually engage in it, we often feel unsatisfied. This tension points to an essential truth. The challenge is not external. It is not about time, length, or comfort. The real issue lies within, specifically in how we prepare for prayer. In our earlier reflections, we traced the four movements in the meditation of the tax collector. Having followed these steps, we must now ask a sharper question. Within these movements, where does prayer truly begin? The tax collector presents a profound truth. He began not with prayer, but with preparation. And from that preparation, prayer emerged. His example challenges our usual assumption: I can pray whenever I want. For the tax collector, prayer was not a performance, nor a torrent of words, but a brief, clear cry that could only rise from a prepared heart. For him, prayer was telos, the final goal, the fruit of preparation, not its starting point. This is our theme today: prayer as preparation, the path to Puritas Cordis, means purity of heart. To understand this more deeply, let us turn to the parable itself, where each gesture reveals a profound purpose. Luke chapter 18 describes the tax collector through three gestures. First, he stood far off. Second, he did not lift his eyes. Third, and he beat his chest. Dear friends, are these gestures a prayer in themselves? Or do they prepare the ground for prayer? Clearly, they belong to the movement of prayer. Yet, it is more accurate to see them as preparations leading into prayer proper. For in the four movements, prayer proper is the final cry: God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Notice carefully, Jesus does not say he went home with blessings granted, but rather he went home justified. In other words, these movements aligned his mind and heart with God. They prepared him for the fruit. Jesus names elsewhere, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." From a neuroscientific perspective, the first three movements of the tax collector correspond to profound process in the brain: standing far off, cultivating metacognition, thinking about thinking, which reduces emotional reactivity and opens clarity; lowering the eyes, a subconscious feeling, I am safe. This is linked with metanosis, a shift from the brain's default mode network, DMN, that is referential thinking, to the deeper conviction that God is beyond grasping, beating the chest, an embodied metanoia, deepening interoception, that is awareness of inner states, and resetting emotional pathways. Thus, preparation is not merely functional. It rewires the brain, declutters the mind, and resets the nervous system toward God. Through these neural insights, we see how preparation naturally leads to spiritual alignment. The purity of heart described by the fathers of the church. The fathers of the church often described prayer in two stages. Scopos, the immediate goal, that is purity of heart. Telos, the ultimate fruit, that is discovering the divinity. When the mind is decluttered and the heart purified, Scopos is attained, and Telos naturally follows. In this sense, preparation is not a preliminary step. It is the very essence of prayer. The gestures of the tax collector are not occasional acts, but daily rhythms that reshape both the brain and spirit. Metacognition, sacred distance. Standing far off means stepping back to observe the self. This creates space for transformation. Metanosis, surrender to mystery. Lowering the eyes acknowledges that God cannot be comprehended, for God is mystery. This turns prayer into communion rather than control. Metanoia, call to renewal. Beating the chest directs attention inward, accepting that change begins within, resetting both heart and mind. As these gestures shape both body and mind, the body itself becomes the teacher, guiding the soul into readiness. Dear friends, practicing these three movements bears the fruit of Puritas Cordis, that is purity of heart. With the purity comes vision. God is no longer distant, but an immediate presence within, around, and in all. Neuroscientifically, this corresponds to a shift from fragmented pathways of fear and desire to integrated pathways of peace and awareness. Thus, the parable does not end in the temple. It ends in a transformed life. Dear friends, having explored the gestures, the neuroscience, and the fruit of preparation, we now see clearly. Prayer is realized not at the start, but as the heart reaches readiness. Once the heart and the mind are prepared, a single phrase is enough. It pierces the self, anchors us in silence, and opens us to joy. Therefore, live these three rhythms. Stand far off, sacred distance, a key to many struggles. Lower your eyes, God is mystery. Beat your chest, renewal within. These are not rituals to perform, but rhythms to inhabit. For when the heart is pure, God is no longer distant. He is the immediate reality. And as Jesus declared, the tax collector went home justified. Dear friends, in our next reflection, we'll explore the deeper meaning of the word justified and how it illuminates the path from preparation to the full transformation of life. Thank you.